And on tenor sax, electric bass, and flute, Bob Messenger.
What was your background? I mean, where are you from, and what was your musical influence growing up?
Oh, let's see. I started playing clarinet in high school, junior high actually. It was about the 6th, 7th grade. I started playing clarinet, and all that. Then my uncle sent me a saxophone one year, and I took up the saxophone and played with a lot of local little bands, and VFW halls and Elks Lodges. And then I went to, after high school, I went to an art school up in L.A., Frank Wiggins, and then they changed the name to Trade Tech. And I was studying commercial art, and then I got a call to go on the road with a Mexican band, So I did. I left school and did that, and then let's see, it was about 1959. I came in, and something about my lungs. My folks were, when I was a baby, I grew up with double pneumonia. I mean, I started as a baby with double pneumonia. One of my lungs was shrunk and the other one's enlarged. My heart's in the middle of my bass. So they told me, you got to quit blowing your horn. So then I took up bass, So then I took that up and started learning that in the 60s. And then when I met Richard, of course, it was just an accident. I was playing a gig in Downey somewhere, and with this leader, and the piano player couldn't make it for an hour. So the leader called Richard because he was Richard's teacher in high school. So that's how I met Richard. So I was playing double bass, in those days. I didn't even play electric bass, and. So anyway, he had me start making rehearsal with him and Karen and Doug Strawn and Gary. I think Gary was still there, Gary Sims. And that's how I got started with Richard. And then I did a lot of freebie things, openings and film openings and things while they were and they got a contract with A&M, And anyway, I just rehearsing with them for a long time, and then all of a sudden they got a hit record.
I mean, what must that have been like? I mean, right from the beginning. I mean, because if you listen back, and I've got quite a few of these, if you listen back to some of the real early stuff with Karen, I mean, that had to have really baffled you. I mean, and they're equally talented in their own right, but I mean, what were some of your thoughts on their talents, respectively, Karen and Richard?
Well, God, Richard was real great pianist. And he did all those charts. And Karen was a natural. She was playing drums at the time, and she was really good. That's all, And I played with a lot of people that should have made it, but they were they really wanted to make it. I guess the folks moved out here just to give more possibilities for Richard. And then of course Richard did everything, built everything around Karen.
Right. I mean, what was your feeling though when you heard her sing? I mean, because it was really, I guess at the time you probably. I mean, did you ever stop to think that maybe you were kind of making history, and obviously in a big way? Now,
no, a gig's a gig, man. I mean, I'm just looking for gigs, and I'm just trying to stay working and make a living. That's what I was thinking mainly.
Yeah, no, I was going to say, once things really started to take off, I mean, they were signed in '69, and then obviously they really, when Close to You came out in '70, I mean, that was the big boom, and then from there, and I know you were there right up to the end. I mean,
when that broke, we were in Tahoe. It was one of our first gigs in Lake Tahoe on the North Shore, and all of a sudden that Close to You started climbing the charts, and right after that, we started going on the road, being an opening act and all that stuff.
Is that what did that become kind of your prime? I mean, because you said you were, just to back up for a sec, you said you're chasing a lot of gigs, and that's what musicians do. I understand that. But I mean, once things really took off, did you really have time for much else? I mean, or was it pretty much devoted to that?
When it went off, hey, you want to go on the road? Well, sure. What else I got to do? No,
Right.
it was really good, and we had a good group of guys. We all got along real well. The whole band and Rich and Karen and.
Yeah. What was it like? I'll ask you both the studio, first the studio and then the road. What was it like working in the studio on something? Because you have really been responsible for creating some iconic, great solos. I know you like to stay behind the scenes, but really you've influenced a lot of people over the years, myself as an arranger included. What was that like working in the studio on those records?
Well, that was, I don't know. It was always a tense thing for me. I mean, a lot of pressure. I wasn't that great, and that's the way I felt about it. What am I doing here?
Yeah, well, and you're obviously
anyway, Richard is, he's the one that put it together.
Right. I mean, when you had a solo, we'll take something like This Masquerade or Rainy Days and Mondays or A Song for You, any of those. I mean, did he just say, okay, here's 8 bars or here's 16 bars, just blow?
Yeah, we did several takes, and then Richard would sometimes take one part of one solo and splice it to another part, and and use it. I was like palette would paint on his palette.
Mm-hmm. Right. And how about on the road? And I know the road shows, because they had to go out and try to recreate as much of that as they could. I mean, obviously the vocals were. What was that like as far as the discipline? I mean, what was that experience like?
Well, they did, like I said, the rest of the guys on the band, they did the rest of the backup vocals. Now on the records, of course, they Rich and Karen did all the backups and sang all the parts. And on the road, we had people to sing those parts they couldn't do on the road.
Were you around for much of that as far as the recording part of it, or was it you were
well,
pretty much just brought in?
I only went on the recording. I only went on the recording when they wanted a solo, and then I'd do it with earphones, and they already had the rhythm track down.
What and then do you recall, real quick, and then we'll move on? Do you recall when you were recording that stuff? At what point was it just the track that was recorded, or were you ever brought in with any of the other orchestration, or was it just you in an ISO and then you just played
on
your
the
part?
On the records, it was just usually a rhythm track. Maybe some of the concerts and things where they had a big orchestra.
Sure.
I said, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Right. So just to kind of move on, obviously, they were very disciplined. And I interviewed Richard not too long ago, and I stay in touch with him pretty regularly. And when he wants something done, he wants it a certain way, and he's going to go until he gets it. And that's really the reason. I mean, I think that. I think a lot of that was instilled in them. I mean, I think that was given to them. I mean, what did you have any experience? I mean, you obviously spent a lot of time with them. Did you have any experience with the family at all, or was it always just with Richard and Karen?
Oh no, yeah, the family were around. Sometimes on the road. We first started rehearsing at their house in Downey, in the garage, in the living room actually. There's a little house in Downey, and so we got to see hang out with their mother and dad quite often.
Moving on, when did you notice any problem with Karen? Because obviously that was the unfortunate side to their story.
I'm sorry, you said, what was that question?
When did you begin to notice that there were some issues going on with Karen?
Well, golly, when she got her anorexia, I mean, she started to become noticeable after a while. She lost so much weight.
Yeah, I mean,
really, and she had the with anorexia. It was just like the classic symptoms. Her mother was a big part of it, and the mother was really controlling between the two of them, et cetera,
Yeah.
But she was nice. I liked their mother. She was nice, and the daughter really liked their father. But they had this thing with the kids,
Yeah, I talked in a conversation I'd had with bassist Joe Osborne, who of course he cut the album, a lot of the album tracks. And he even told me, he said, and he said, pretty much summed it up the same way. He took it a step further. He said, the problem with the family dynamic there was that Richard was the star and Karen pretty much just had to kind of go along with the program. I mean, did you ever notice a change in that over time?
I mean, Richard built everything around her. I don't know that Richard. I mean, yeah. I mean, he was the center of everything. He put it together, and with the help of, they worked together on the producing and all. And they really worked hard. I mean, they really workaholics, you know.
Sure.
Yeah.
Do you think that obviously had something to do? I mean, there's a bit of perfectionism in both of them. I mean, I'm sure that probably didn't help her situation any.
No, well, it complicated, I guess.
Right. And then, of course, and then I know Richard, obviously, he had his issue, and then that, and that was going to lead me to my next thing, in late 78, he finally took a break from things for a little while to go deal with his...
Yeah, he had a little quaalude problem, I think, briefly. But, he was not heavily into that. These were prescriptions, but the doctors would give him, because he couldn't sleep or something,
Did you feel like it affected his work?
Yeah,
You guys...
Yeah, it sure affected him, and he finally realized that and quit. Of course, he had to go dry out and went to Arizona and some place down there and stop for a while.
Yeah. So what did you do during that time then? I mean, because obviously the Carpenters, there was a period there.
I was home and just home to work local gigs. I was still at that time we were all on retainers for a while. So we were cool.
Right. Right. Well, and then, in fact, just right around that same time, 78-ish into 79, let me back up just into 78, the Christmas album, the Christmas Portrait, all that stuff was recorded. 77, 78, because you guys had a couple of television specials, the Carpenters at Christmas, and then you had the Christmas Portrait special the following year in 78. Now, you actually sang on Sleigh Ride.
Yeah, I know.
Now,
I thought Richard had a great sense of humor, because I never sang at all.
Well, Bob, I got to tell you, though, but every time that song comes on, and it's on all the time. In our house, we grew up with the record anyway. But you have such a recognizable voice, and it is perfect. I mean, how did you get roped into that one?
Well, I don't. Richard said, "No, do that. You can do that." So I did it. It was just like a gag. I thought. And it came out. I mean, the way it came out was all right, but I have no voice whatsoever.
There's a Christmas party at the home of Farmer Gray. It'll be the perfect ending of a perfect day.
It's funny because it's a great part. I think you sing it, and then Doug sings the next line,
and then the next group,
and then Richard, right? I think the three of you guys all did the third part.
There's a happy feeling nothing in the world can buy. As they pass around the coffee and the pumpkin pie. It'll nearly be like a picture print by Korean Dyes.
In 79, see how good your memory is, you guys went, late 78, to promote Christmas. Richard didn't go because he was too ill at that point. But you guys went over and did the Bruce Forsyth show.
Gee, I don't remember that.
Okay, well, I sent the clip to Joan, and it's a high quality clip, so you guys will have to watch it. But you guys it was phenomenal. It sounds like you played and sang to a track, but it was a live vocal. It was definitely a live sax. It was definitely live band. I think you guys were clicked though, because I could hear the orchestra, but it was taken off the record. I'm pretty sure. And I think, from what I understand, Peter Knight was over there and teamed up because Richard couldn't go, and you guys went over and you had to make this date, and so they had a stand-in for Richard at the piano on a Rhodes.
Yeah, I don't remember that. I really don't remember that at all right now.
Yeah, you'll have to see the clip. Anyway, that was kind of.
Yeah, I'd like to see that. Okay.
Yeah. That was sort of the precursor, and then Richard went off to Kansas and did his thing, and then Karen's solo project. Obviously, you said that you were kind of in a hiatus at that point, so you really weren't doing it.
She went back to herself, and
right.
You have to read that in some of the books. They have a couple of biographies, biographies that were made of Karen. I got two of the books that were published.
Sure.
And.
What was your just real quick, briefly, since you're on that? What was your take on that? I mean, did you get because you were around for a lot of it? So
there's
did you
a lot
like
of stuff in that book that I didn't even know what was going on. Let's see. Let me see the book. I have it right here in the case. Let's see if I think I do. Oh yes, the two books are right here. One of them is The Life of Karen Carpenter, and who's that by? Little Girl Blue by Randy Schmidt. The Life of Karen Carpenter, and it says Little Girl Blue. And then there's the first book was The Carpenters, The Untold Story by Ray Coleman.
Right. Yeah, Richard put that together. with Ray.
Uh-huh.
And Randy Schmidt is a very good friend of mine, actually, and that's why I was just kind of curious what your feeling was on it. But it sounds like,
well, a lot of stuff I didn't know was going on is in that book, in the Little Girl Blue book. Randy.
Little Girl Blue. Yeah.
Getting more information there from those books. Yeah.
So moving on, so into 1980, Richard comes back from rehab. Karen's obviously really in the heart of her issue. There was a revival because you guys finally, and there were a lot of documentaries and news report people asking them questions. Where have you guys been? You took all this time off. What's going on? And of course, there was a lot. If you've seen any of those interviews, a lot of stuff was kind of brushed under the rug. But you guys came back and you did the Made in America album in '80, and I know Richard was really fired up about it. I don't know what. Do you remember that after that break, that period of time?
No, I don't. I really don't remember some of those. A lot of those.
Yeah, because you were in a lot of those videos too, those music videos. So I mean, at least visually, chronologically, you were there. But obviously, it's for you. It was just I'm sure you weren't thinking it was all going to turn out the way it did. It's kind of a bizarre situation. So really, you can't really comment on when they got back and made the last album.
No, I can't. I don't remember anything about those last albums because there's a couple near the end. There's a couple of things I wasn't even on.
Okay. Yeah, Made in America you were because the single "Touch Me When We're Dancing" came out, which was their last.
Well, I did a video on that, but I didn't do the solo on that. I faked the solo on the video.
Oh, that's right. I think was it Tom Scott? I'm trying to think of who played that on the record.
Yeah, I don't remember.
Yes,
one of the studio guys.
Yeah, I saw that. Yeah, I do recall seeing that. How did you learn of Karen's passing then? I mean, moving on.
I heard it on the radio. I heard it on the radio.
What was your? Did you know that? Were you surprised at that point? Or
yeah, of course. Yeah, it was really really startling.
Yeah, I can imagine. Did you talk to Richard much after? Did you go to the funeral? I mean, were you around at that point?
We went to the funerals, and we did.
Did you talk? Have you talked to Richard at all? I mean, much since any?
Well, not much after after we get disbanded. Just separated and we have our own paths, and I'm way out here in Orange County, and I just lost touch. That's all.
Sure. What would be? Do you have a favorite Carpenter song or a album that you particular time period that you like that really you felt like this sticks out to me as kind of being the thing I always want to hang on to or remember?
Well, the whole experience. I mean, it changed like through the time and what all, but it was all a high point. It was a nice experience.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, well, to know how the business works and seeing other parts of the world, and it was expanding,
Mm-hmm.
So I really appreciate it, Yeah, I mean, I love seeing the old stuff. It's nice to bring back old memories, and I can't, and some things I look at, I says, I don't remember doing that.
How funny. Well, I sent that, let Joan know, I sent her a really nice clip. I've got the whole show, by the way. I just sent her the one of Merry Christmas, Darling, but in that you played.
Oh, yeah, I did the sax solo on that one, on the record.
Yeah. So, all right. Well, Bob, it's been a pleasure.
Okay.
It's really been a pleasure. Okay?
Well, good luck on your project.
Thanks, Bob.
Yeah.
Take care.
Bye.